Okay, this is going to be fun. So just the other day, I posted my in-depth review on the new Atari Gamestation Pro, the new My Arcade plug-and-play that has all the Atari games and the bonus games. And probably the big sticking point in my review was this controller. And probably the number one question people in the comments asked me right after when you're going to show me how to add games with SD card was, what about this controller? Can I plug it into my PC? Can I plug other controllers into the Gamestation Pro? All great questions, and all things that I think might help you make a more informed buying decision if you know what kind of versatility and options you have. So that's what I'm going to check out right after this. This video supported in part by...
Playing VR, I tend to sweat. It gives me an edge. So King of Nerds happens to give me an edge too. Let King of Nerds give you the edge. Bye, King of Nerds.
Hey there, welcome back to GenXGrownUp. I am John, and I am a GenXGrownUp. I want to thank you so much for clicking on this video and taking the time to watch. In that review of the Gamestation Pro that I released the other day, my biggest, I'd say, criticism or observation to be concerned about, I found was the position and layout of buttons on the joystick. The A button here on the top is great, but the position of the B and the C located up here on the top of the stick, I found a little bit difficult when controlling games that used all the buttons interchangeably. And of course, many of you were wondering too, and that's where all those comments came from in my review asking, what about compatibility with other controllers? Is it possible? Well, look, if I get any new controller, if it's got a USB plug on the back of it, I'm gonna plug it into my computer just to see what happens. So, here is where my little investigation began. Like you, I noticed that this new Gamestation Pro controller had this USB-C plug, which you can use to plug it in for power. I obviously have batteries in it right now, but what happens if I plug that into a computer? So let me make some space so I can show you. Here's that game controller dialog from Windows, and when I plug this in, we hear a happy little noise. And it says twin USB joystick. Now, this is going to make a lot of sense. We knew that if you plug this into the Gamestation Pro, it isn't just a wired controller. It's still communicating wirelessly. So I was really curious, what are these inputs being read as? So twin USB joystick suggests, like an Xbox controller-y kind of thing. That's probably X input. So let me go to properties. All right, so let's see. Yeah, moving the joystick is seen as the point of view hat. So yeah, navigation up and around, cool. And then I started looking at the buttons and I'm like, wow, so button A is actually button 7. Button B is button 2. The C trigger is button 1. All right, so natively we know this is button 1, 2, and 7. I don't know. So we have more buttons though. So we have the home button, that's number 13. We have the select button is number 11, and then the start button is seen as button number 12. So obviously all of this input wirelessly is being read by the Gamestation Pro and being translated into the buttons it needs. That's not the only button. There's also this little home button around back, or the menu, I guess is what it's called. So if I mash that, it's actually buttons 9 and 10 simultaneously. Okay, and then the last one I was curious about, of course, was the paddle, and the paddle doesn't seem to have any input here in Windows. Now, keep in mind, this is just what is in Windows natively. Maybe someone could write a driver that could interpret this, but it's not being seen as like an X or Y axis or a trigger or anything like that. So I'm not sure how the Gamestation Pro is interpreting that, but the reality is, yes, I can plug this into a computer and I can use it. In fact, check this out. Look, I have River Raid running inside of Stella, and if I just hit the start button, we are playing. And of course, the C trigger is the A button. We know that. You can always remap it. So here I am playing a 2600 game emulated in Stella on my Windows 11 PC, using the Atari Gamestation Pro controller. Now, that's pretty cool, but that got me thinking. If I can plug this into a Windows computer and get some compatibility, might I not be able to take a Windows compatible controller and plug it into the Gamestation Pro? What would happen? Well, that's what I'm about to do. Before I get into that, let me tell you that all the pieces and bits that I use in this experiment, I will put links to down the description of this video. I have an adapter and some other stuff that you might need if you decide this is going to work out for you. While you're at it, in the description down below is a link to our merch store. Look, if you want a shirt with our logo on it or something, that's great. But when you head over to GenXGrownUp.com/merch, you will find great t-shirts designs of all sorts. You can find Atari stuff and things inspired by Activision and Pac-Man and Galaga, and maybe even one inspired by your favorite game controller. I don't know. Look, every purchase you make helps Gen X Grown Up, and it's much appreciated. Okay, so now I've got all those other controllers ready and set up. Look, I've got this pile of junk that is making my desk a mess. Let's test these out and see which ones are going to work, or if they're going to work at all, or what they're going to do. So for starters, I wanted to check out my daily driver. So this is my Xbox One Elite controller that I put a skin on to look very Atari-ish. So since it has a USB-C on it already, I can just take the USB-C here and plug it into the GameStation Pro on the other end. And as soon as I did, I felt a little vibration in here. And so this is the one I found the closest emulation with. So Game Select, look, that does Game Select. That's awesome. And then Game Start does a game start. Left, right, forward, back for hyperspace. Oh, it's flip right now because of the game option I'm on. And the fire button works, is A is fire, like it's supposed to be. So I started poking around and seeing what else. So the Y button, that's that menu on the back. And then it made me wonder, oh, if I hold down the Y button, I wonder if it'll like change the lights. Let's see. No. But it does let me go into the menu and change all these settings and do, oh look, I could load a saved game state. Yeah, let's load it. So right away, I can use an Xbox controller. Now wired, of course, wired. It's not going to talk wirelessly. There's no Bluetooth comm. But, I mean, if you want to bring your own controller to the party, I mean, this is already great. But I have several other controllers that I'd like to try out that I have laying around to try to narrow in on exactly how the GameStation Pro is receiving this input. So next up, I found this laying around. So this was actually the controller that came with my Amiga A500 Mini. But it's a USB controller that works in Windows and with that. So the problem is, how do you plug that in USB-A if all you've got is a C plug over here on the console? So what I did is just grab one of these cheap little USB-A to USB-C adapters, and I can plug that directly into the front of the GameStation Pro, and then I can plug any USB controller into it to try it out. Now, as soon as I plug this in, it's working, let me say, unexpectedly. Like the A button is navigating left and right, and the X button is navigating the other way. The B button doesn't do anything, the Y, and the arrow keys. So nothing really monumental here. So it's not just any USB controller. I think we're narrowing in on it though. And next up I have this little knockoff of the CX40 that I had, but it's a USB joystick. It actually has a USB-B plug on the back and it plugs in to my little adapter here over on the GameStation Pro. And while this would be perfect if it worked, because this is a cheap one and probably doesn't use the right protocol, even the button isn't A, the button is C, which is just going to toggle my music on for me. I mean, while the music is charming, it doesn't help me too much. Up next, I've got this goofy little controller. Now, this came with my New Wave Toys Replicate Street Fighter 2, and this was like the second controller, but it's USB and it works with Windows, so I thought maybe I would give it a try, and it uses micro USB, so I can just plug that in. And I was really hopeful this would work, but actually no buttons are responsive here, so yeah, no help there either. And then finally, I wanted to try this PlayStation DualShock controller. Now, I don't know if this is for a PS2 or PS3 or whatever it is. I had it laying around. But yeah, it's worth trying. It uses micro USB, so I figured let's plug that in and give it a shot. And lo and behold, it works really well. And I had to learn where the buttons are, but I think maybe that's A. Yeah, that's A. So I can navigate around and yeah, boy, it's very responsive too. Let's jump into... what can I shoot in? How about some combat? I can move around and shoot in combat, right? All right, so I'm in combat, and I'm noticing that right away, some button that I click somewhere is putting me into black and white mode. Oh, is it this up? Yeah, that must be black and white mode. So there's another button for color? I don't know. You gotta be careful what button you press, but I can do game select with the share button, and I can do, options will do start. Look at that. Oh, and the circle is the fire. I can't find, oh there, the diamond, or what is that, triangle? Triangle takes me in. Can I set TV type again? There we go. But it didn't stick. Something I've done with this, but it works. It works. The Xbox One controller seemed to work the best, but if I can figure out how to get this out of... Color, please. Color. There we go. All right. Oh, it immediately went back. So something in this particular controller, but I think we're getting a handle on what's going on here. Now, it just seems to me that I'm getting the best experience using a standard Xbox One controller, plugged in wired. And I haven't done any special programming to my Elite controller. It's just behaving like a regular controller, although I could do remapping and stuff. But look, I have the menu button, which I can come back out of. I have the ability to, do I have a game select? I do. I have game start. I mean, I seem to have, I know the bumpers or triggers do anything, but I can navigate either with the left analog stick or the D-pad, whichever works the best for me. So look, if this isn't doing it for you, it's not floating your boat, you do technically have controller options with this GameStation Pro, thanks to the protocol they used to allow devices to talk to it. So after all this admittedly backroom unscientific experimentation, I think where I've arrived, based on what I've seen, is that the GameStation Pro, when you plug in a controller that's not its own, it can read X input controls. So that is the predominant method that Windows uses for communicating. It's a protocol for communicating with devices. And so I would expect, look, based on this, be sure you test and see and verify. I will put a pinned comment down below this video for any additional information we get from viewers and commenters on what controllers work or don't. And I'll try to compile that as best I can as more experimentation comes along. But if you were looking at the GameStation Pro, and like me, you thought the controller might have been a sticking point that made it not quite right for you, this is great news that you know I can bring my own controller, if it uses X input, plug it in, wired only, not wireless, so there is a bit of a trade-off there. But then you can have your own layout for controls based on the kind you like. Now there's no remapping of controls, and you can't blame my arcade for how something you plug in randomly is going to work. It's going to work the way it works, but pick the controller you use best. I use that Elite controller. I can remap buttons on the controller if I want to, so you definitely have options. Now one thing to consider is that you're not going to be able to use that paddle that's so great on the paddle controller if you plug in a different joystick. So I could see myself using like the regular controller and my own controller interchangeably depending on what I'm playing or what kind of controls I'm most comfortable with. So yeah, there you go. All of you who are asking in the comments section of my review, yes, you can use the GameStation Pro controller with a Windows PC, and you can use other controllers with the GameStation Pro as long as, we suppose, it uses X input. So look, sound off down in the comments. Let me know what you think of this development. Does it have any impact on your judgment of the GameStation Pro itself, its versatility, whether or not it's something for you? I would love to hear about it. I will throw links over my shoulders here and here to other coverage on the GameStation Pro that I've been doing recently. I certainly hope you found something to enjoy in this quick video, and I can't wait to talk to you again next time. Bye-bye.